Yo, what's good, guys? So today I am back with an interview that the homie Luke Forprez actually did on me. Just to tease it a little bit, in this interview I go over what I think the future of selling beats will be. Then we also break down the success that we have seen with Matthew May so far and just working with him and his beat selling business. And let me tell you guys, right now I'm currently working on finishing up the Matthew May case study for the YouTube video. And when it drops, it is going to be the best video you've ever seen about breaking down a beat selling business for free. And also I'm working on a ton of new videos about email to add to the course, as well as everything about implementing everything that we have done so far with Matthew May to the course as well. So if you're in CCS within the next few weeks, you are going to have a lot of content and a lot of new things to learn and start implementing to get you some sales. Enjoy the interview and peace out.
Kind of switching gears a little bit just to get some more background on you. I know you started out just on the beat making grind, as we all have essentially. But at some point you kind of shifted gears and really just dove into the producer content creation space. I'm just curious, like, do you still make beats now? To what capacity do you make them? Do you try to sell them now, or like,
probably
or are
like
you just
once,
full in?
there's probably once a week where I'll hear a loop or sample just because I'm like tied into so much production stuff that I'll be like, it's like a creative escape for me just to open up FL Studio and kind of go like mind blank for 20 or 15 minutes, but nothing really ever comes out of it at this point, just because my production skills, like they say it might be like riding a bike where like you can get back on it and understand, but I lost my touch to a degree.
Wow. That's crazy. What, like, so you just find yourself more passionate about like content creation? Is that what like the nature of your transition was, what it boils down to basically?
Weird. I guess, like, I think I've been reading books. That sounds cool, right? But I guess the one book that I recently read, it was talking about like there's stuff that like happens in your childhood that like based on how you're raised and whatnot, like you have certain things that seem like play to you, but they can be work to others. And so like back when I was like 13 or 14, like I was making YouTube videos and I was like editing Call of Duty clips and like showing people how to edit them in Premiere with like YouTube tutorials. I think I had a channel, got like 3,000 subscribers. Wow. And got like AdSense revenue. It wasn't a lot. And so I liked the creative aspect of like the editing, but I also liked making the videos themselves. And so I think there was just a switch when I found out about the marketing. I just kind of went all into it, and it kind of paid off because luckily I found Robin and he had a position for me, and nobody else could really do that position because it's so, I mean, for them to make a video, it would take like 3 hours, but I can crank them out in like 30 minutes.
Wow.
And so also too, it's just building the community. Like I learned that like, okay, production really isn't my thing that I love to do, my talent either. Like I'm just not naturally talented or good at it, and I have a short patience for it. And so like to do the marketing stuff, it's like I can do the marketing and somebody else can benefit who's making the beats all the time, like just to watch our videos every Friday and get something out of it. I just think that's super cool.
Nice. That's so interesting. To me, it's like the exact opposite. Like all of the other stuff other than making beats feels like the work. Like I have no passion for it whatsoever. I don't know why I'm doing
on TikTok. You easily pass us on TikTok too.
Yeah, I mean, that's just another thing I kind of stumbled into that now feels like a job to crank out all this content for that. But it's like, it's working, so I got to just keep doing it. You know,
it's something you fall into, but
yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm just trying to attack this, music production mountain from as many angles as possible, all simultaneously, which may or may not end up being a good idea, but that's what I'm doing, and yeah, exactly. And I've seen enough, progress in each thing, even though except for TikTok, it happens pretty slowly, that it just kind of keeps me motivated. And I don't know, like you said, we'll see where it goes from here, but it's just funny because we're like the exact opposite in that way. Yeah.
I remember when I did the interview with you, you were like, man, I have to make a YouTube video. That sucks.
Yeah, dude. Like I just want to make beats all day. Like that's it. Like I actually just hired a virtual assistant to outsource some of the like menial day-to-day data entry and like lead generation tasks. And I've never felt better just
More free.
knowing that I now, yeah, like, and that's just like a gem for anyone listening. Like, don't underestimate the leverage that you get from utilizing other people's time.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd be surprised at how affordable it can be to hire somebody in another country where, you know, $5 an hour goes a long way, right? It doesn't seem like much to us, but
For their country.
so I'm going to start looking at things like that, you know, more, to just try to free up more time so I can get back to actually making the music.
I mean, man, like that's kind of how it, like, that's like a super valuable thing though, is like when you understand time and money are essentially the same thing, because you buy one with the other. And so it's just like with doing email marketing stuff, I think what really helped with Matthew May, and also there's another producer I'm doing something for who does sample kits, is I bought an email marketing course for like $700 and I made the money back the first month.
Wow.
Just because amazing. Like, but I didn't like, I spent that money so that way I could get that return on time so much faster. I didn't have to spend all the time learning all this different stuff. It was, I bought the course, learned all the information, then implemented it right away.
Right.
And so when your view shifts on kind of how time and money work and how one buys you the other, it is really eye-opening.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And one of the biggest ways, just to kind of continue on that point, to leverage time is to leverage other people's knowledge, right? That True. Maybe it took them years to be able to compile a course like that you spent the $700 on, and you can consume it in, you know, 5 a couple hours. Days, essentially. Yeah. 5 hours. Yeah, exactly. Right. And so that's something that the Rich Dad, Poor Dad author, Robert Kiyosaki, talks about like a lot, investing in your own knowledge and just investing in yourself, just generally speaking, and always just be continuously learning from, you know, people that have more experience in whatever you're trying to get into. So that's something I'm trying to do more. I just got an Audible subscription. So now I'm listening to books all the time, which I didn't think would work. I didn't think I'd be able to really absorb the information, but it's worked out surprisingly well. Like
the one book,
3 weeks of.
So here's the books you need to read. Okay. So you need to read $100 Million by Alex Hormozi. Do you know who Alex Hormozi is?
Oh yeah. He's on my feed all the time.
Okay,
I love that
good.
guy.
Good. Yeah, that's great.
What's it called? Hold on. I'm writing these down.
$100 Million Offers.
Okay.
That's just, it's a good overall book for marketing. The next one is called The Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I think I said that right.
Okay.
Then there's another one I really like. It's more, these are all kind of more marketing. I guess the Almanac is more like life, wealth things. Let's see. There's one called Alchemy by Rory Sutherland.
I've heard of that one.
That one I really like because he talks about how, so like in elevators, they have mirrors. So that way you look at yourself and you get distracted. You don't think about how fast they move. So it seems faster. I think he also said that like at the pedestrian crosswalks where you hit the button, it tells you to wait. That doesn't actually do anything. Just makes you feel better. And so the book's kind of like that. And so like, I guess those are my top 3.
Nice. That's awesome. Very good. I'm listening to Atomic Habits right now.
That's yeah. That's like, I think that's like everyone's like entry into like the good life right there. Everyone's
yeah, no doubt. So yeah, read, pay attention in school, children out there. Damn, we're just some, I don't even know, some intellectuals now. No, not really.
Dude, some kids out there like, what the hell? I came here to learn how to make beats.
What does this have to do with beats? Yeah. All right, well let's rein it back in that world that for people that might be bored by reading out there. One thing I really wanted to ask you about, you guys have been crushing the growth across all platforms in recent months. And I've heard you talk about how short form content has really been kind of a galvanizing force in regards to your growth. Yeah. And I've noticed in my own content as well that I've seen a significant uptick in my following across all platforms, especially TikTok, when I've introduced these short form videos. But the stuff that does well, at least for me typically, is still like in some way relating to helping other producers either sell beats or to learn about cool platforms or websites or plugins, and things in that lane, essentially. I am now back to posting type beats on a damn near daily basis. And not only that, I've doubled down. I got a second type beat channel that I just started, Luke for Prez Drill. Go follow my drill or subscribe to my drill channel, because I love making drill beats and I feel like I can do that for a long time. So I think it's sustainable. But in any case, I have now started to throw beat snippets in the form of YouTube shorts, basically like every other day. Like I'll post a type beat full length video one day. The next day I'll make a YouTube short of that same beat the next day, just basically like advertising it, essentially like, oh, full beats on my channel now, go check it out, whatever, right? And it has gained no traction whatsoever, essentially. I think one video on my drill channel got like 500 views. Whereas if I post a short about, marketing for music producers, it gets anywhere between like 2,000 and 6,000 views, right?
Yeah.
Typically. So I'm just curious, have you come across any formula or any format, or have heard of any producers in the people that you work with or have interviewed that have found success with creating shorts with actual beat content, like type beat shorts, essentially?
The answer,
or reels, or
not really.
Interesting.
It's such a difficult challenge, because I think with the whole type beats, with like the image and the visualizers, that's like the usual content, and like an artist is searching for that. But now when you get into the short form content, it's like I can scroll, I can see a girl shaking her ass, I can see some other 10 other things I'm interested in, some guy falling off a 10-story roof. And it's just like people, like no rapper is like going on TikTok with the initiative of like, let's find a beat. And I think that's just going to be the hardest thing, is where it's like, I don't think that content will ever really do good on short form platforms.
Right.
And I think it's either you have to find a way to make yourself interesting as a producer, because what's even interesting for us is with our account growing so fast with IG Reels, there's people who come into like my live now and ask for like rapper tips. And there's still like all the content's still production related. So it's really interesting. But I think kind of like you have the own answer within your own content. Is I think you have like, okay, like what is it? The top websites for producers is like your your eternal hell that you've now gotten into.
Lifeblood, though. Yeah, but that's what works the best.
And so all it is you flip it, top websites for rappers, and now you build all these rappers. I think it's just like a rapper doesn't go on TikTok as a rapper. They go on it as Robert, Jack, or Nick. And then once they see content that they can relate to, they're like, oh, like this is like top websites for a rapper. I'm a rapper. Like that's how I see kind of the flow of content with these guys on short form. It's like they live other lives and they have other interests. And so you need to peak them enough. So I think if you did top websites for rappers, or you looked around different industries or whatnot to see what those trends are and just do it for rappers, you could easily probably grow a page.
Yeah. That's a gem. I actually did start doing that a little bit. And
it was on the same page or a new page?
So I've only done that on TikTok. I haven't done it on my like type beat channels, although that would be an interesting thing to try. Yeah, I mean, why not? They're so, dead right now that like I could probably throw a bunch of different stuff against the wall content wise, try to think outside the box. That's interesting. I'll definitely consider that. Yeah. Wow. Nice work.
I mean, it's tough, man, just because you really have to come into the motto of like, I think what I said was perfect, kind of like a realization I just had, but like they don't go on there as fucking Jack the Ripper. They go on it as Nick, a 17-year-old kid from Alabama.
Right.
And so like you have to try and pique their interest enough, and something production related, something music related can be enough. But like if you give a tip, and so it comes down to like how much of a producer do you also want to learn as well?
Yeah. Right.
And that's
What it goes back to for me, like I've heard people say this recently, where you want to look at TikTok and these short form videos at large as sort of the top of your funnel,
Yeah.
right? Like people aren't necessarily going to uh, purchase anything from you directly from that platform, at least not at this stage. Potentially down the line, that is going to be more of a reality. But
Mhm.
at least to like introduce yourself to this audience and basically funnel them elsewhere where, you know, then they can potentially purchase your beats or your merch or whatever your lane is, right? That kind of just goes along with what I've been hearing in that regard, and it makes a lot of sense. That's something I'll try, and maybe I'll try it on my typey channels and just see what happens. You know, like maybe they'll trickle over and listen to the beats, because that's more direct
Yeah.
than, you know, YouTube. It's like all on the same, or sorry, than TikTok. It's all on the same channel. So
I
that'd be
also think
interesting.
I also think too, it's almost like the frequency. Because there's guys who I found on TikTok who I see every day. And
Mhm.
it's just like I haven't really done anything just because like, but like maybe one day I'll click on their profile.
Right.
And it's like that's what you might be to somebody one day, is like you just show up enough times, or like, okay, finally I'll see what this guy has to, like, what does this guy do?
Right.
Or like, does he have music? And so I think
Right.
it's also frequency.
Yeah. No, 100%. I agree with that. Sticking with the type beat world for a moment. I watched your recent interview with Dilly,
Uh-huh.
and I thought that was like one of the best ones. And I actually went and watched some of his content after that. And I think he gives some of the best insights on how to grow a type beat channel from ground zero that I've ever heard, like across the board.
Dude, that kid's full of gems. I remember
Yeah.
so we posted a video and he like DM me. He was like, hey, it was so funny. He was like, hey, let's do an interview. It was just like super direct and super funny. And then he was like, by the way, like I'm doing this before, like I reach out to producer grinder, anybody, so you get the full exclusive. But it was just, he
Nice.
was just like so like direct. He was like, dude, I've made so much money. You have to interview me.
Right. That's so interesting.
But yeah, he's
Yeah.
an
No, I
awesome
mean,
guy.
that's the way you got to be sometimes. But one thing that he didn't cover, at least that I've seen, that I'm so curious about, he talks about the importance of finding, and this is like kind of well known across the board. I've talked about this, like the importance of when you're starting, especially, you know, finding keywords to target that have low competition but high search volume, and you can use things like vidIQ and TubeBuddy to hone in on those keywords, even though it's not 100% accurate all of the time, right?
Mhm.
You start really small, you niche down, and then you kind of build from there as you're able to rank for these smaller keywords. And one thing specifically that he mentioned that I thought was a really good idea was, if you make a bunch of Drake type beats, right, and you go and you try to post a Drake type beat, good luck. There's millions of Drake type beats out there. You're never going to rank for that. But
Mhm.
if you use another keyword relating to Drake in the title, like one of his classic albums, for instance, like Drake Take Care type beat, now suddenly you've narrowed down the audience a bit, because people have to type in more specific phrases, and it would be easier to rank for those. So that's kind of a workaround to still being able to target big artists
Mhm.
without a huge following and grow. So I put that into practice. And one of my favorite albums of all time is What a Time to Be Alive, Drake and Future, of course. So I started posting Drake Future, What a Time to Be Alive type beats, right? And
Mhm.
right away, like go check it out right now, I rank like boom, 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 like multiple videos on the first page, like instantaneously ranked, right?
Mhm.
Problem is there's no search volume, which is shocking, right? Because you would think people would continue. I mean, that's such a classic sound, or maybe it's just me. But in any case, um, so it is. My point is very long-winded, but my point is, it is possible to rank essentially instantaneously with no following for
Mhm.
very specific keywords, right?
Yeah.
Now, but the problem is, again, not enough search volume in this instance.
Mhm.
So I've decided to kind of widen the net, and I've been posting other types of beats with theoretically higher search volume and relatively low competition. And I have found that it's much more difficult to just rank even for those.
Yeah.
Um, so my question is, again, I wish he would have talked about this in more detail, but maybe you have some insights. How long should you be targeting a keyword that you're not ranking for before switching over? Like, are you just essentially like trying to break through this wall, right? And then eventually you do break through and you do begin to rank for these keywords? Or are you better served to find keywords similar to like the "what a time to be alive" keyword that I've been using, where I rank right away, but there's no search volume, but maybe find a better example of that?
Mhm.
Like, is there like essentially like, should I just continue to post day after day after day and then hope that eventually I rank, or should I spend my time trying to find other keywords,
It's a good
if that
question.
makes
It's
sense?
a question that I think everybody has, I myself included. And so I'll kind of give what my insights are on it. So if you look at like What a Time, so I will say the Dilly album method does work because his friend did it, Kavi, KXVI, and he does like
Yeah, I
Kanye
know.
West, like Graduation or like Dropout. I think his channel like has been going really well. And I think what's interesting too is Dilly has mentioned this to me multiple times of sometimes the algorithm hasn't caught up to you yet. And so it's an interesting take on like how long should I target essentially a keyword before I switch. So that's also two. Then I think you have to think about what wall are you trying to break through, and is it really like what's behind that wall? Like if the "what a time to be alive" stuff, like as you can see, you broke through the wall and nothing's there.
Right.
And also, I think what you think about too is to me that keyword that's never going to become relevant ever again.
Right.
Like if they release a second version, it'll probably spur it up. But like to me, that's the thing with like the album titles is to me they're always just kind of at a slow rate of dying. Because like yeah, like Graduation by Kanye West, like he can hype it up more, but like that's never gonna like full on spurt back. So I
Right.
think too, you have to think about like what the keyword you're targeting, like, is it an artist that's still growing? Or is this somebody who's like well past their prime, who like this is a dying flight of going down?
Right.
And so I think to get back to the main point of how long should you target a keyword, there really is no specific answer. It's just trying to think about what opportunity there would be there for it. And also, too, I think it comes at the saying of like, if you just target Drake type beat unrelentlessly for 2 years, you might never break through because you're just not getting any impressions because it's so saturated. And so it kind of comes down to I think the best answer to give you is to try and find a less crowded route that has potential,
Right.
would be kind
Right.
of the answer there. Just because I think that's the better game to play is build and dominate one sound and then move up with the existing audience you have
Right.
based
Right.
on my YouTube knowledge.
Right. Yeah. And that's basically what I'm attempting to do now. With some of these like B and C tier rappers that are on the come up and that have the potential to get significantly bigger.
Mhm.
But even ranking for those, at least so far. But I mean, I've only been doing it consistently again for like 2 months, maybe not even. So I think one thing that kind of tripped me up when I first started posting, daily, is just I didn't necessarily have the long term perspective mindset that I should have had,
Mhm.
and going into it understanding like this could literally take years of daily posting, because I think that's what Dilly said, like it's at least like a year
Yeah.
of constantly posting before he got any kind of traction. So it's just about having that attrition to just kind of continue to press forward, but I want to do it in a logical, smart, tactical way where I'm not wasting my time. So anyways, yeah,
It's tough.
yeah, it's tough, but I think at the end of the day, I think you're right. Like I think that happy medium is kind of the way to go. Sticking on that, just like speaking of keywords for a little bit, just in terms of your experience lately being in, the Heat Discord, and, you really are just kind of in the trenches in the producer community. Uh, have you heard of any keywords like lately that have been buzzing for people? Any new trends in the type beat world or anything that we should be aware of?
So the most recent trend was all about getting suggested views. And
Mm,
so there's like an hour-long video on our channel all about it. But it's really interesting because there was a whole thing back in November of 2021 where people were buying views. And I mean, I think it's
mhm.
still kind of happening. and their channel just shoots up. But like there's people who are organically just getting suggested all of a sudden. And I think most of it is kind of like it's just YouTube being YouTube. Like there's no way to control it. People will get shot up. I know this one guy, he had like 12,000 views come out of nowhere on a small channel. And then a week later, all his videos are getting 20, 30 views. And so it's just, and I know the kid for so long, like I know he's not buying views. It's just, it doesn't make sense. And so the suggested thing was a new thing of where essentially you would target the biggest of biggest keywords and you would essentially just copy and paste title and description and the tags. But I don't think tags really don't do anything nowadays for YouTube. It's what YouTube says. And you would hope that essentially YouTube would be like, oh, these have the same metadata, like they're related. Let us suggest this video to this video. So now your small channel is getting recommended. This happened with a guy who makes like reggae beats. Is like there's a guy who has like 600,000 subscribers and he got recommended and his video got like 30,000. And yeah, so like that was the biggest trend we saw, but it looks like that's pretty much like YouTube was just popping for like a month and then just kind of like killed off a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I like think that also comes to with keywords is like you never know what's going to happen with YouTube. There's so many factors that you just can't control that like an opportunity can strike. Like the artist might blow up, YouTube might suggest your video for whatever damn reason, a pandemic might hit. Like that's how Matthew May grew his channel, is the pandemic hit. I saw a lot of producers grew their channel. When it hit, people just started skyrocketing. That's when Dilly was doing like $30,000-$40,000 months.
Right.
And it's just like it wasn't like he changed his marketing strategy or did anything at all. He just saw this huge increase because of something happening in the world. And so the game there is just you have to play to win.
Yeah. Essentially. Yeah.
It's like just, you have to be playing in order to get the opportunities. Like you have to take the action. Right. Something will happen.
All right. I think it's time to talk about the elephant in the room here that we've been discussing on Instagram a little bit. Email marketing, ladies and gentlemen.
It doesn't work. It's a scam.
Now, apparently you're collecting some pretty crazy data to the contrary of that with this case study with Matthew May that you've been kind of hinting at throughout your socials. So I'm curious just to hear, kind of an overview of the best practices of email marketing for music producers in 2022 that you've picked up on so far.
So just to drop the bomb on it, I feel like the attribution isn't as good as it can be. I feel like Google Analytics kind of sucks sometimes with Mailchimp, like not being able to track everything properly with like an actual beat store integration. God forbid that happens one day. So in the past 90 days, it has been, I think it's 16,000. No, my bad. $1,637.50. I fucked that up so bad. I apologize. So about $1,500 plus the past 90 days have came from email. And so like the best practices and stuff is, so we're going to have it's going to be like another hour-long video on all this stuff about everything we did. And I'm super excited because like it's never been done before, essentially. Is we are just sending out weekly campaigns of essentially like there's always a reason to do it. Like I think a lot of producers, it's like you can't just say I made 5 new beats this week and like send them a link. To me, that's like not enough.
That's what I think.
I think there needs to be some more of a story, not like crazy story, but like you need to have a reason for emailing them, I feel like.
Right.
And so most of the time, like we're not doing anything crazy. Like we're not making resources. We're not finding resources. It's just like, Matt, what happened this week? Or I look at Matt's beat store. It's like he made a synth pop funk beat. That's like super weird. So I like make this story of like this week I was in my studio and I just did something crazy. And so it's like, you have to hear this new beat I made on my beat store. Boom, go to the beat store and click it. So the main goal was essentially just to get people back to the beat store. In these emails, there's no like offer, there's no sales, there's no coupons. It's just the main goal is to interact and then get them back to the beat store. And then also recently how I've been using it is super genius that I'm kind of upset it took like a month to do this, is there's like a lot of questions I want to know. I just start asking them. And so a big tip for a lot of people out there, I think Mike talked about this before, Mike Trampy, is like the top selling beats on BeatStars, like the charts, you can go see it. They're all like short titles. All of Matt's top selling beats, super short, probably like 4-word, 5-6 word letters, or like 8 letters. If it's 2 words, like Some Days or something. So like all these short titles do really well. That's a gem there. I can confirm that. But also I was like, what Matt said is I asked him like, how do you name your beats on YouTube? And he was like, well, a lot of people use it for writing. And so I was like, oh, I wonder if they do. So I sent an email and it was like, the subject line was like, can I ask you a question? I'll get more into subject lines later. Oh God, I wrote some of the case study today. It's like, this is like super fresh in my mind. I wanted to do that earlier. So it was like something else like, can I ask you a question? And it would say like, every time I make a beat, like there's some sort of storyline cohesive part there of like, I don't want to start off by saying, can I ask you a question? Does the name of my beats help you write music? It's like, that just sounds, it's just not like a human interaction, really. It's like a terrible interaction at that. So it's like, hey, I was making beats and I always wonder like, do these names actually mean anything to you? Like when you watch my beat on YouTube or you buy it, like, does the name inspire you in any way, shape, or form? Let me know. Also, by the way, I dropped 3 new beats this week on my beat store link with a button. And I mean, there's been a ton of responses of like, yes, no, maybe. And so it's just interesting to hear that. And to kind of also, it's really good for helping develop the avatar. Because that's something I did recently too, is Matt does pop beats. So it's like the people who Matt talks to, they're kind of all over the place. It's really not like the hip hop kid. It's a lot different. And so just by seeing these people's responses, like they give you a lot of information that you didn't ask for. They'll be like, well, like I always listen to your beats when I'm at my job at Subway that I hate. Or like I live in my parents' house still. And so like I always listen to your beats late at night. And so some of the beats just hit like perfectly. It's like I didn't ask for that at all. But like these people love to just give you all of this information. And so email is really good just for like asking those questions you want to ask. I think it's really tough though for a lot of people because they might not have that big of a list yet. And so they feel like they can't get that data or they feel like their emails are going to the void. What's another one I was going to ask recently? I feel like I was going to type it either today or tomorrow. Oh, how do they find inspiration? Like what's your process for writing music? Like do you go to a studio? Do you live at your parents' house? Like what's your inspiration? Just because people love talking about that stuff and it's really good for building the avatar. Just because like when I write the emails for Matt, it's kind of weird because like I'm not Matt essentially, right? But I know who I'm talking to. Like I know who's across the room from me, and so I can use that to write those emails. And then where this really happens with the cadence is you do that once a week. And then when you have a sale or when you have some opportunity going on, people seem to be a lot more happier to buy. And it just seems like that cadence of like campaign, sales campaign. And then you can go, you can do that for a few days. You can push that out. The 4th of July sale we did was from like the 2nd to the 8th. And there was like 3 or 4 emails in that sequence. And yeah, it's just like we engage. Then we do a sales. Right. And I think, that's just literally
up the lead.
Yeah, that's literally
building that relationship. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I have so many different things that I'm juggling that I probably don't take enough time to sit and actually analyze the results. But I have seen that when I do come off more conversational in my email campaigns, I do get better results just in terms of responses. And, I think like the biggest key that I probably neglect a little too much is, making sure that you're coming off like a real person and not just like a robot or not just like a billboard ad for your beats, right? If they think they're talking, if you can make it seem like the email is sent directly to them and not like a big list of people, I think you will ultimately have better results in terms of just
I do that. I do that too. So here's a gem. Here's the phrase I like to use. I wanted to personally reach out to you. Just by adding personally reach out to you, like I half of me kind of hates it because like I don't know, like I'm like too over analytical. Like, does that seem unethical? It's like, dude, it's a sentence. like really doesn't hold that much, but people really, it comes off, like you said, it's just a lot more personal by saying, I wanted to personally reach out to you. And
Yeah.
people, like, nobody's ever been like, this is automated, fuck off, or
Right.
like nobody ever really has that response. It's just what
Right.
you'll see is people will engage, people won't engage.
Right.
It's like really, like, I think we're like coasting at like 30% open rates for Matt right now. And it's just like, I can tweak that by sending to, this was really fun. When Matt hit 100,000 subscribers, I think we had been doing email for maybe a month and a half. And so we had a good list of engaged people. So I was like, okay, I want to see, like, if I send a sales campaign to like the most engaged list of people, or the segment, I think it was like 1,000 people or something, or whatever the number was. It had an 80% open rate.
Wow.
And it was a sales email.
Wow. That's
And
crazy.
I think, I forget how much. Hold on, let me pull it up. I got analytics right here. Come on, I'm all over this. So when we did that 100K sales, I forget the duration of it. It wasn't more than 5 days. Let me see. $1,015 that made.
Wow.
And so I think it was like 3 emails. And then we also did a website banner. Website banners do stupidly well.
Wow.
But yeah, it's just all about, like, you engage your list, you build that up, and then when you have like a monumental time in your career to have a sale, like, then you can slide it in. And what we've seen too, is I want to look at this more, is within the 4th of July sale recently, Matt had a lot of people use like the higher up bulk deals. And so this was really interesting to see, is to analyze, is so I think his average items per order is like 1.8. And even with doing the custom website, I think it's still like around 1.8, which was super interesting to see, because like now we even have that section that like lets you know about the bulk deals. And so I was kind of, it's interesting to see, like, is there a better way we can tell people about bulk deals? Should we limit bulk deals to like, maybe it's too many for like people to comprehend? I don't know. But during the sales campaign, a lot of people were using like the buy 3 or the buy 4 and get 3 and get 4 for 3, or 4 for free. And so it was interesting, like, people were essentially like, they had to be writing to them to multiple beats, and like this sale they essentially just like stockpiled. And
Right.
so it was really interesting to see, like, is that the cadence that like works perfectly? Like, we're sending out weekly engagements, people are coming back to the beat store, they're finding their beats, they're writing to them, then we do a sale and they're like, oh shit, they're on sale, like, I've been writing to these, I've been hearing these, now it's time. And
Right.
so it's kind of interesting to see that. I didn't really think about that much, but yeah, Matt was like, dude, somebody spent like $400 today. It's like, holy
Wow.
hell.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, those
so
are great when you can get the crazy, like I've had a couple in my career where it'll be like the buy 5, get 4 for free, and they'll be like
yeah,
unlimited leases.
yeah, like
It's
that's what
nice.
everybody was doing. And I mean,
Yeah.
that 4th of July sale we did, I think it did like $2,800 in 8 days. And so it was, but a lot of it was those higher up bulk deals. And so it's
Yeah.
really interesting to see that, of like, maybe that cadence works so well because people find the beats, they write to them, and then they inevitably know sales gonna come for some reason, more than
Right.
likely, maybe. I mean, Matt's never done a sales campaign before, ever in his life, before like we did all this stuff. So it's not like they were waiting for it. But I think it's
Yeah.
pretty obvious to see now that there's marketing going on. So people might be waiting up to unload, essentially.
So now this email list of his, is it comprised of entirely previous customers? Does he have a
So
lead list as
let me
well?
pull you into this. So right now he has 2,800 contacts. And if I had to say, I would probably say around more than half are customers.
Okay.
A lot of people come in. So what we do is there's the Airbit free download. And Matt also runs this a little bit different because all his beats are free for profit use.
Right.
And so that's kind of where we ran into the initial issue of like how we do things in the course, is there's a free beat lead magnet. And I was like, well, that makes no sense because all your beats are free already, essentially.
Right.
More than most everybody else's. So I was like, and he had this genius idea too, of, he was like, I get a lot of people from like India message me and like a lot of third world countries of like, it's too expensive. He was like, could I like show them a different price? And I was like, well, no, but we could give them, I think it was like, what about a coupon? And so he pays like $50 a month for Opt-in Monster. So based on somebody's geographical location, they will see either a 15% exit intent pop-up coupon, or they will see a 60%, which is definitely a little bit higher. But I think that one has made only like $200 in the past 90 days. So I just think a lot of people from those countries, that they just don't have the buying power nonetheless.
Right.
But yeah, that 15% for his lead magnet does pretty well. I think that's made him in the past 90 days. I'm just giving you all the numbers right now. Fuck, who needs the case study video? Just come watch the So yeah, that lead magnet for 15% off has made $2,200 in the past 90 days.
Wow.
And then, so that's just like the sequence is like you open the email, and then if you buy, you obviously go into the after sales funnel that we have in CCS. Or if you don't, you go into the relationship building sequence, then we pitch another sale for 30% off. That's like 5 days limited. And I think only a few people have taken that. I want to say that's made less than $300. So I don't know if there's an issue of where essentially people are coming in for 15% and they're not even using that. And so my thought is like, some people I think just are never bound to be customers, which sounds like a cop out. But I really do think it's like the 80-20 rule in full effect of like 20% of your business is going to be from 20% of the people that like hear your beats. And as you just reach, and like as you reach more people, that 20% is going to increase, obviously. Right. Because your 100% is way bigger now. And so that's kind of what I think we're seeing is really in full effect here.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I remember Robin saying this like early on in the course. Like, there's just some people that are only there to download the beat for free and peace out, and they have no intention of becoming a customer ever. And that partially like scarred me to the point where I have just never offered free versions of my beat ever, like until like a month ago. I finally was like, all right, let's give this a try. And so now there is a free download option on my entire catalog, which was like a terrifying decision. But just like, you know, going back to the type beat game, you know, it's almost a prerequisite to have free in the title. Like you have to, like, otherwise it is. I feel like your click-through rate's going to be a lot worse, you know?
It's so interesting. Cause I don't know if like, I don't know how many, like, it'd be interesting to like actually know how many rappers steal beats, but also like what Robin said is some people are going to download and never like contact you or even care. Matt's email list could easily probably be about 10,000 right now. Like if I had to bet a lot of money on it. So a lot of people come in from the free downloads. And so how it is after you free download, I think Airbit sends you the email, and then we try to contact you like 3 times to introduce ourselves or introduce himself essentially. And if you don't open after 3 emails, it just unsubscribes you. Right. And I think a lot of people. And it makes no sense. Like, especially at that level, it's like Matt would pay potentially hundreds of dollars a month now for like all these people who would just sit there and never be worth anything.
Yeah. That's interesting.
And I think,
is that I was just gonna say, is that an Airbit thing that it unsubscribes them, or is that what you've set up?
No, that's in Mailchimp.
Or Mailchimp. Okay, got it.
Yeah, we use Mailchimp for Matt. So so how it is Airbit kicks over a tag to. No, this sucks. So what Matt has to do is BeatStars has us luckily. But when somebody joins a list from Airbit doesn't specify any tag, whether it's like a free download or a customer. So so everybody, customer or download, gets into Mailchimp, and then every day Matt has to go through and upload a CSV and clear people out of the list and like reassign them roles.
Oh, that's terrible.
I mean, luckily,
think it's a lot smoother on BeatStars. There's all these tags.
BeatStars, they'll pass through customer or sales. Or no, sales and free download is what they pass over. So you can track that. It's a lot easier. But it sucks. So whenever someone gets the free download tag, like Matt, it's a lot of work. It really is.
Yeah. That's so interesting though. But I mean, just going back to like the sheer volume of people that just fall off the face of the earth. I think I've experienced that in my email list where, you know, it's just like, I got a ton of contacts doing the 5 free beat Legion Beats ClickFunnels whole thing. Like I dove headfirst into that. And I think just so many of those people were just in it for the 5 free beats, and that was that. Because, you know, to this day, I'll still email them sometimes from that list, and it's just like, you know, a graveyard. Like, it barely gets any responses or anything. So that's interesting. But I'm actually excited to build a new list of leads from these new, you know, free download options that I'm now giving on my website. And it's interesting to like check my BeatStar stats every day and see like new ones coming in. And it's still a pretty small number, but I'm gonna brainstorm ideas to reach out to them. So I'll probably be asking for some advice in terms of the email sequences when that time comes. But anyways, moving on here. I got just a couple questions left. You've already been so generous with your time. I really appreciate it.
I can go on.
Dude, me too, honestly. But you know,
this might be unfiltered. This might be 3 hours, Luke. I don't know.
Oh, Jesus, it could be. Who knows? I mean, I'm not opposed, but kind of in switching gears a bit. I'm curious to know your perspective on this. The typical route for a producer to gain prominence in the internet space, and I hate the differentiation between internet producers and industry producers. I think it's antiquated and ridiculous. I don't think there needs to be a distinction whatsoever. But in the space of growing your beat business online, I have really only come across 2 main avenues: building up a type beat channel and funneling people to your beat store, or paid digital ads, which is the way that has worked for me historically. Have you encountered any other pathways to success on the internet outside of those 2 that maybe producers are overlooking and should look into more?
God, you want a good answer here, but I don't think I have it.
Yeah,
I think it's like any other online business. Either it's organic content or it's paid content. And I think there's really no, like, I mean, you could go slap the QR code of your beat store on like some studios around you.
That's a good idea.
There you go. Yeah, it's either paid or organic. And I think I wish there was another answer, but it's like, if you want to sell beats online, you need to gain the attention online or already have connection. Everything works through the internet though. Like, no matter which way you try to route it, as like, if you start off as like a metro booming in Atlanta, you make all these connections, then you blow up. It's like, well, it's because the internet, everybody knows about you now.
Right.
And so then it's just like a backwards funnel, essentially. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
And so,
yeah, I mean, that's what my experience has shown as well. There's really, you know, those are kind of the 2 avenues that I've seen work. Another thing I was curious about is, in your experience working with your producers in the course and in your Discord, what roadblocks do you see most commonly, either perceived or real? Because a lot of times we get in our own way in terms of our thought processes. But what are some common roadblocks that you've seen that really make producers stumble at some point on the journey, that prevents them from essentially reaching their full potential?
So I would say it kind of goes back into the video we're releasing of like action over everything. So I think a lot of people, this is like all successful people, is really people who never really get there, is they overthink everything. But there's so many people in the Discord who are worried about all the wrong things. And I think the YouTube keywords is like, okay, like it makes sense. Like, you want to try and find the perfect keyword, but it doesn't exist. You're not going to find it. And so it's more important that you just get your beats out there, because even when you think you find the perfect keyword, it's still going to be 3 months of torture. And you're going to be like, why isn't this working? So it's better to start now and figure some stuff out and kind of gain enough momentum. But it really is, I would say, like the biggest roadblock everybody falls into is just they overanalyze stuff. I think what's funny is everybody says like the beats they hate the most always sell the most. That's the one thing I've heard like 20 times.
Me too.
So essentially,
my best-selling beat of all time was the one that took 10 minutes to make, and it was like an NLE Choppa piano beat. You know, like it took me 5 minutes. I'm like, all right, well, it's a little bouncy. We'll see what happens. Best-selling beat of all time by a country mile. I finally did sell the exclusive, but yeah, crazy. So anyways,
so I think that's a big one. Is just like, I think the goal just has to be to do the work itself. And I think it kind of sucks because it can feel like this isn't going anywhere. And I think to a certain extent, you should reevaluate after a few months, because somebody commented on a video I did with Busy Works Beats where I was like, imagine you were paying somebody to run your type beat channel for you. And after 6 months, they like no traction at all. You'd be like, dude, I'm paying you $300 a month and you've gotten me nowhere. Like, you're going to either can this dude or be like, you need to do something different.
Right.
And so when you can kind of have like a mind shift of like having to pay somebody, you'd probably operate a little bit differently. And so I think it's kind of like sometimes you need to step back and analyze what you're doing. And also, think about the 80-20 rule. It's something that's like a lot in my life right now, is like, what 20% of shit that I do actually grows everything. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I do that I probably don't need to do or could spend less time doing.
Right.
So it really is just that initial time management, as well with like taking a step back sometimes. And also, like, the quote I love is, let chaos reign and then reign in chaos. And this is the perfect example of how I operate. So we're going to do a contest soon. I don't know when, but we had this planned out in June. We want to do a huge contest because we were launching our sample kit store. And so Robin was like, it'd be cool if we got some companies to sponsor it. And like, we made this a huge thing. And so I was like, got it. He's like, but like, we don't have any info about what we're going to do. So like, hold off on it. I was like, yeah, whatever. So I landed up getting like Slate Digital, Cable Guys, Excellent Audio, like all these companies to sponsor us for a giveaway that we really don't know. It might be another month till we like figure it out.
Yeah.
And so it's just like that, I think, describes me in a nutshell, is I just start going towards it. And it's like, we'll figure it out, because a lot of the shit that you're going to like groundbreak with in your career as a producer or whatever you want to do as a creative person, you're not going to be able to know the problem you need to answer until you run into that yourself.
Right.
And I think it's the hardest thing. Like the hardest part is starting, and then you run into more roadblocks, but you're not going to get to those roadblocks until you've been going through it and you're now experiencing these things.
Right.
I think that's like my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, no, that's a major gem. I agree 100%, especially with just like the overthinking thing, that's something that I'm constantly battling, and trying to figure out the whole 80-20 thing as well. Like, what is the best use of my time at any given moment is probably my biggest challenge right now. And one of the reasons why I outsource some of the work to a virtual assistant. And I think that's actually going to be really beneficial for me in terms of figuring out what's worth paying somebody else to do, and what's, you know what I mean? Like that, like you said, like, imagine if you hired someone to run your typey channel. This is kind of that. I might even have her like be posting to, scheduling stuff out on Tunes2Tube or something pretty soon. And, so like it actually, like, that's a great piece of advice. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's
really, like, the last thing that I wanted to talk about is just, what's next for Heat. I know you guys just launched a loop store, which is really awesome. You mentioned the contest. Tell me, what are the big picture plans here going forward?
Dude, I'm all in for community. So essentially where we're at with Heat is to grow a type beat channel, or not type beat, to grow a channel about selling your type beats. The ceiling for it is so low. Like, I think we're almost at 15,000. And like, I don't see us reaching 30. I didn't think we'd get here, to be honest. I don't know how we got here some days, just because it's so based on search. And so like, if another world crisis happens and everybody wants to sell their beats, we're going to be to the moon 100%. That's going to be a good day. But the odds of that happening, I don't see it happening. And so especially like the level it hit before, like if Heat was at this level we were at when like everything happened 2 years ago, oh, it'd be beautiful. But it's not like that. So what we figured is, like, if we want to reach more people, and also it's kind of balancing of like, if we reach more people, it might not mean more business too. Like, it might make the most sense to stay niche, but also me as the creator of the content, it feels so stale. And I think for our audience viewers, it is kind of hard to find a new horse to beat. Essentially,
right.
Like, I love the interviews because it's a new horse to beat.
Right.
I love
Right.
doing the Matthew May case study stuff because it's all this real-time data that I know is nowhere near out there. And so
Right.
it's super, super refreshing. But like to even make the video of like the top 6 habits of successful producers, to an extent, I kind of feel like the information's already out there, or people should know that information, I guess is what I feel like. Is like
Right.
deep down, people know all these things, just they don't choose to apply them or understand how important they are. And for me as a creator, it's like I ultimately want to be the best and like step up to the plate with something new every week that's going to blow your mind. But it's super hard to do that.
Right.
And so what we want to go is, I was like, okay, like we have connections now with some people. You know, I was texting Busy Works Beats this morning. You know, we got some different connections here established because of where we're at. And so I want to utilize those connections. And so like I want to start doing challenges in our Discord. I want to reach out to companies to sponsor those challenges. Some guy who watched our video apparently works for Arturia, and he was like, yeah, I'm going to have the marketing team hit you up. I was like, sweet.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for the email, but still, it was like, that's the opportunities that essentially are going to fall into your lap just by doing the actions. Like the reason why I talk about it so highly is because it's literally my day-to-day life as the CMO of Heat, is just these opportunities just kind of happen because we've been doing it for so long and we're on the radar for people now.
Right.
And so like I want to challenge people. One of the ideas I have is like I want to buy somebody instruments off Wish and like have them make a beat of it, because I don't want to do the production stuff. One, because I'm not that good at it. And Robin definitely does not want to be on camera. And so there's other creators in the space who are known. There's a lot of creators who are unknown that I know about because they're in our community. And so like I want to do wacky, fun stuff of where it's like, it's not like a completely different person on the channel, but it's more so like an introduction to this new style of content that we want to do. And so like I want to have somebody who's a drill producer. I got somebody in our Discord to make like a country guitar loop, and I'm gonna have a Fiverr singer like sing a country song to it, and then I'm gonna have him make a beat, like a full song out of the acapella and the actual loop itself.
Wow.
And I just want to I just want to do fun stuff essentially.
Yeah.
Because I know like the whole marketing, selling beats, it's valuable, but to reach a new level of YouTube growth, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, you got to reach a wider audience. It's definitely like a small niche.
It's
and
a
that
super small niche.
It's interesting you brought that up, because that's a challenge that I've had recently as well, just in terms of like trying to come up with additional content ideas. I feel like I've given out a lot of my sauce already. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, where do I go from here? But that's kind of the TikTok has been the saving grace, because it's sort of you know, given me new ideas and just different avenues to, you know, just build beyond how to sell beats on a beat store type thing. So I'm right there with you on that. You know, that's really all I had. I really appreciate the time, man. This has been full of gems, and I'm excited to see where you guys go from here. It's been fun watching your trajectory over the last couple of years, and you know, I'm sure it's going to continue. I think you all, the whole team over there, has the right mindset. The product that you offer now in terms of the course is extremely valuable, especially if you're just getting started. I will have a link to the constant conversion strategy free seminar in the description of this video. So for anybody who hasn't checked that out yet, definitely do that. You're going to get a ton of gems from, you know, everything from setting up the beat store initially to the email marketing that we talked about, and tons more from there. Ryan, thank you again. That's all I got for you, man.
I appreciate it. Can I share some extra sauce with everybody?
Absolutely.
Well, if you just said no and it cuts off, that'd be hilarious.
Nope.
So like, all right, so I'm just gonna tell us what everybody, because Matt's cool with sharing numbers. Just so like the future of selling beats. This is me on like my my like college professor podium right here. So it's kind of remarkable of like how far behind I think every beat store is. Airbit, if you're watching this, please, dear God, you guys got some work to do, essentially. Well, like when this stuff's moving at scale, like I said earlier, like how Matt has to maintain his email list, it's kind of crazy. Like how they can't pass a tag along. I think that's something super fundamental that should be done. But I'm not here to bash anybody, so I'm here. But so like something we're doing for Matt is, this is really cool, is we're like A/B testing on his website now. And like I said, like this is the shit I want to do. Like I want to do shit that's like never been done before for the producer community. And so I think on BeatStars, I know you can do it. On Airbit, I think you can do it. On Soundy, I think you can do it. Is you can like highlight a license, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole point of like the whole marketing just there is like, if you highlight it, it's significant. More people will hopefully be likely to choose that. And so I found a thing where you can A/B test a website. If you want to learn how to, it's gonna be in the course because I'm a dick like that. But I gotta keep some stuff to ourselves, right? But so like I've been testing it recently, and it's been really good for the 4th of July sale, I think. Is one, we're testing it with a heat map to see, do people even scroll down that far? I mean, it's literally just under the BeatStore player, but we're seeing, do people actually even scroll down that far to like read the license information first off? And then we're A/B testing, we're doing no highlights, we're highlighting the $100 one, and then we're doing one where we're highlighting the $200 one, which is the most expensive. So we're trying to see like, okay, based on, does it do anything if you highlight it? Like, does it change? And I think that's like the cool stuff I love to do. And then the one thing that like, for a lot of producers who are just starting off, a lot of this marketing stuff doesn't matter to them. So I think to most of the companies, it doesn't matter to them either, because a lot of the producers, and maybe even the companies too, I don't think they're unaware of how important this stuff is, but producers aren't aware of it. So it's not really an issue they have to solve with these companies. So I'll just share these numbers right here. So abandoned checkout is like, abandoned cart is a huge way for companies to make a lot of money. Essentially, like when you look at it as scale, like that month Dilly did 40,000. I bet he might have had like $300,000 total be added to cart, and it only converted, I mean, probably even much more. And so like for the past 90 days, there have been 784 people who started checkout on Matt's site and didn't complete it. In total, if everybody would have done it, which that's never going to happen, it's $70,000.
Wow.
But I did the math. Even if he could recover 20% of orders at his average order value, which is like $85, which is kind of insane, it'd be like an extra $3,000 every month. Wow. And so it's like, this is the shit that I nerd out about, that I hope one day like will come to the producer community. I think this is also too what Robin has been pushing for years for, and it just never happened.
Yeah, BeatStars has actually tried to have a email, like an abandoned cart.
I saw that. It never worked for me, and I hated it.
Dude, me neither. It was so bad, bro. Like, no offense to that company, but kind of offense to that company.
Their support was terrible.
Months. Dude, like, yeah, you couldn't get their support to respond to you. The interface of their dashboard was extremely janky. Stuff didn't work. It was a disaster as far as I'm concerned. But at least like they were thinking, the BeatStars team at least was thinking in the right direction, because I mean, you're leaving so much money on the table if you're unable to reach out to those abandoned cart people. That's just across the board, all e-commerce.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So hopefully that's something that is in the pipeline in terms of like an update, at least on the BeatStars side. I can't really speak to Airbit or any of the other ones, but yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that was just a major thing. Like, I think it's just so eye-opening to like see this data at scale, to really understand like how much money is at the table. Because for a lot of producers, like I said, it's not a problem because they're not at this issue. And I mean, hell, if you can even make an extra $200 because of an abandoned cart, that's still like well worth it in my opinion. Absolutely. But like nobody knows this stuff. So like, like the niche content for us is still going to keep on continuing, because like I want this stuff to change. Will it ever? I don't know, but also, we'll like I can't bridge
when we come to it.
Yeah, like you can't track revenue that well at all in Mailchimp. Like you have to use UTM links, and I feel like Google Analytics doesn't really pick that up the best either.
Yeah,
and it's just like, in terms of like modern e-commerce, like a lot of beat stores are lacking. I mean, it makes sense as to why, because like producers don't, like for every one of me, there's like 10,000 producers.
Right.
If that.
Right. Yeah.
If there's more than 10 of me out there. But
yeah, exactly. Well, that's a bonus gem for y'all.
There you go.
Bonus. Boom. Good work. Thank you once again. This has been like, dude, I'm gonna like watch this 3 times now. There's like so much good info, and now I have so many like ideas for the things that I can try as well.
I came on here saying I was gonna have the best one. I think I did it.
I think so, man.